Hello, welcome to What's Not Gas, and it's not a fat bike problem, it's an engine problem. Every day in the news, on YouTube, on social media, everywhere, even on LinkedIn, you see doctors blaming fat bikes for being, a fat issue. It's especially how the media is reporting on this and how the government is handling this that's making me make this video. And even though I might get some heat for it, I think it's necessary. The Dutch government is creating some legislation for fat bikes, specifically for fat bikes, and it might create a dangerous precedent for other European countries and maybe even wider than that. So here's a shortcut of what we're going to go over in this video. There's kids on e-bikes and you can jailbreak them, make them go really fast, and that's an issue. It definitely is, I agree. But they're usually fat bikes. And why is that? Well, fat bikes are cheap, you can get them easily, and you can jailbreak them easily. This is actually an e-bike problem, but because we see the fat bike often used in this context, it becomes a fat bike problem. And even better than that, it's not an e-bike problem, it's an engine problem. And once you realize that it's an engine problem, the answer is actually pretty easy. You just restrict the engines being used on e-bikes being sold in Europe. At the same time, there's always people who find ways to get products on the side. And so those people, the end users, you punish them if they drive these vehicles. It's very simple. It's what we've done up to now. But the Netherlands doesn't see it that way. They see this as a fat bike problem, and the media also they're always pushing the fat bike issue. While at the same time, you could say the same for e-bikes that don't have fat bike characteristics that you can also jailbreak into. So it's really not a fat bike, but an engine problem. Again, the Netherlands is taking this a step further, and they're gonna restrict the use of a fat bike in two ways. One is that you need to wear a helmet for everyone, so everyone riding a fat bike will need to put on a helmet. And the second is that you need to be 14 or older. And that's just plain stupid. Like, why would you make a helmet necessary for everyone when you can ride an e-bike without a helmet? That just doesn't make sense. The only difference is the fat tires. And so let's quickly dissect this problem, because currently it's only happening in the Netherlands, but the results, the consequences might trickle down to other countries. So let's start with, where do all these fat bikes come from? And quite obviously it's China, but there's also a reason why, and specifically in the Netherlands. The Dutch have a culture where the bike is integrated. However, there's a lot of moped drivers, and up to recently these moped drivers didn't need to wear a helmet, and suddenly they did, and they were angry and they didn't want to wear a helmet, and oh look, there's an electric version, you just have to pretend to pedal, let's go for that one. So all these people who were not really cyclists or bikers went to the fat bike, and by the thousands the fat bikes flooded the Netherlands. First issue, the government did nothing to check or to make sure this happened correctly. They failed there, and that's why the market got flooded with these cheap fat bikes that are super easy to jailbreak, because those brands, and they're not even brands, don't care about the rules in the countries where these products are shipped to. But what if kids want to go on an electric bike? Yeah, it's way too big for them, it doesn't suit, and oh look here, these fat bikes are way smaller, they're easy, and you don't really need to pedal. So also for kids it was a way too easy alternative. And then the second fail, you had a lot of parents who didn't give a crap, who looked at it and was like, it's so much cheaper than an electric bike, let's go for it. And so the government could have done more, the parents could have done more, the people riding the bikes could be a bit smarter about it, but we're here now. We have this problem, and let's say there is at least 100,000 pieces fat bikes that you can jailbreak way too easily in the market. That's a problem you have, and a problem you need to solve. That's one side. Then you need to reanalyze and accept that there's a current situation that's based on the past, but you need to move forward. What about those good brands? What do they do different? And can we use what they do and put it into legislation? There's actually quite a few examples that are really, really good and eye-opening. And if we just focus on those examples, we see that the solution to the engine problem, because it's an engine problem, is quite simple. The most obvious choice is you tackle or you punish the people that ride these bikes, and you perform checks to make sure that, they uphold the law and they get scared to uphold the law. You don't need to check everyone, you just need to make them feel that if you break the law, if you ride these models, it's just going to cost you a ton of money. At the end of the day, they're the ones who are jailbreaking these models, who are driving them too fast, because, you know, if a model is jailbroken into or whatever, if it's increased in speed, you don't need to go the max speed. It's just like in a car. If you drive, you can go 100, you can go 200, but if the sign says 50, then you drive 50. It should be the same with bikes. Anyone who goes faster, you check them and you take away their bike. It's quite simple. Hefty fine, take away their bike. Simple. How else are you going to get rid of all the models you let flood into the market? Once these models are out and the good brands remain, good job. If we talk about this helmet thing, maybe we should focus on just make a helmet obligatory for children from any age up to 18. The way of thinking is really also not future-proof. In the future, you won't see which bike is electric, you won't see which bike is not electric. Eventually you won't see anymore, and e-bikes for kids are coming. I can promise you they're coming. So e-bike or not e-bike, anyone who's underage who might fall and really have some damage for the rest of their long life, give them a helmet. On top of the helmet, you make good restrictions going forward. It's really an engine problem, so just tackle the engines. Make sure that all engines being used on brands that are sold here are known and have these restrictions in mind. I promised you a good example, and here's that example. You know Bosch, right? Everyone does. They have engines that you can chip quite easily. So just like the Fatbike, that exists and it's being done non-stop. The people driving are just more responsible than the Fatbike people. Bosch has a lot of things in place to find out that you chipped your engine. If you bring your bike to a shop and they hook it up to the computer, the engine just locks up based on software. Bosch locks the engine up. You can't use it anymore. You need to ship it back to wherever it came from to be unlocked. But so the engine builders are responsible or taking responsibility. Wow, what a good solution, you know? So it's not a fat bike issue, it's an engine issue, and it's mainly used on fat bikes, but don't make it a fat bike issue. Alright, and with that, the end of the video. It's an opinion, feel free to have your own. If you want to discuss, there's a comment section down below where you can ask questions or state your opinion. If you liked it, like and share, of course. And yeah, just subscribe if you want more. Ciao.